Hello. Welcome to Season 10 of The Horrific Podcast. We're two friends who live in different places but share a love for scary movies. In each episode, we both watch the same movie on our own and then record a conversation together about what we liked, what we hated, if we were scared, and maybe even some larger truths about why people watch horror movies in the first place. This season, our theme is Because We Have the Microphone. And because we have the microphone, you will listen as we discuss a bunch of movies that we just kind of feel like watching with no rhyme or reason. Think of it as a collection of movies that we've referenced a lot in previous seasons or been curious about for a long time. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the episode. I had no idea Blumhouse was doing things in 2012.
Yeah.
Like when that opening, like their little animation in the opening came on this one, I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize, but after watching it, you do realize, like, oh, yeah, this is a Blumhouse film. Like, I could just feel it.
Yeah, for sure. Like, definitely, it was very recognizable that kind of some of their, I don't know if you call it production elements, even so much as just kind of the way the story unfolds felt very Blumhousey.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had not seen this one, and in my mind, it was a very different movie than what it ended up being. So I was just like pleasantly surprised all around.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I was thinking of, but I would have sworn that this was a James Wan movie. But it wasn't. I just, for some reason in my head, this was in like the like Insidious universe.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. This was a weird film because I know that I've watched it. I couldn't tell you when, but I remembered like parts of the movie. Like it was the weirdest thing. So, but you know, I think the reason why it kind of makes you think it's a James Wan film is because I think they're both influenced by the same the same genre of horror film.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised. It was a very different movie than what I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I am excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah.
So I will do my intro, then you can do your fun facts, and then we will get into the grainy filmed home movie murder details.
I like it.
In 2012, Summit Entertainment brought us Sinister, a supernatural horror film written and directed by Scott Derrickson and produced by Jason Blum. This movie tells the story of a true crime writer who moves his family into a new house to investigate a grisly murder that happened there. Predictably, he gets more than he bargained for. Sinister was made on a budget of $3 million and made almost $88 million at the box office. It can currently be rented for streaming on Amazon Prime Video. What did you learn about this movie?
So, this is what I was kind of referring to. Sinister was supposedly inspired by the movie The Ring. Also Like a Dream, but
I could see that.
Yeah. So that's why I was kind of thinking that they could be. Anyway, so The Ring, which I think we've all seen. If not, we have a podcast out on it. It's basically kind of like a similar concept. They're not coincidental either. Like it was, you know, they say inspired, maybe copied a little bit, but anyway, by The Ring. Also, the co-writer C. Robert Cargill had a dream about going into his attic and finding a bunch of films that had the same kind of grisly murder footage on them as a home movie that showed up in Sinister. So basically, they also had a dream where that was the case, which I thought was kind of interesting.
I'd like to see some like psychological evaluation of the meaning of that.
That's actually a good point. That's a very good point. But anyway, that's the fact I have for Sinister.
So, yeah. So the two movies that I had written down as what I felt like were maybe like influences or this reminded me of were The Ring and then like every Stephen King story.
Yeah.
Because it's like a writer who moves somewhere new and then encounters like a spooky situation, which feels, you know, very almost I don't know if that was meant to be like a nod to a lot of Stephen King stuff or what, but I kind of enjoyed that part of it.
I was just going to say, it definitely could be. I could definitely pick up that vibe as well. It kind of, for me, and I think it was just because like the footage looked kind of like a Conjuring film, but the footage of where the 4 people are being hung,
yes,
that kind of reminded me of a little bit of Conjuring.
That imagery from the first Conjuring movie, the like visions that Mrs. Warren was seeing. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this one in general, the film quality and like the lighting and audio and everything else were not what I would expect from a 2012 movie. Like they definitely felt more low budget. But then I actually have just pulled it up to like double check that yes, this movie really was made on a budget of only $3 million.
Yeah.
Which for 2012 is ridiculously low for like a feature film. And so I can kind of understand where some of the lower quality production came from, just because they were working on such a low budget. But in my mind, I guess because there have just been so many sequels and everything, I thought I was expecting a much more like kind of Hollywood blockbuster type movie. Mm-hmm. So again, kind of back to the theme of being pleasantly surprised by a lot of things. The fact that it wasn't made me happy, because it felt like, we've talked about movies that are trying to be like a compelling story with horror elements versus a movie that's trying to scare the crap out of you. Mm-hmm. This one definitely felt more like the latter.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, which that kind of makes sense, because I feel like for the longest time, like I saw Sinister like available for streaming. Now, of course, like when we decided to do it, we couldn't find
of course,
it.
Yeah.
But like you didn't hear like a ton of. I don't remember hearing like a ton about it, and it could just be because of being small budget in that. But I mean, overall, I think it turned out pretty good. The only one of the problems I had with it was how dark it was.
Yes,
it gets kind of annoying to like. I mean, I get like if you're just watching like this at night and like your lights are off, like it's easier to see. But like when we're just watching one for a podcast, like it's light out. It depends on like we watch it throughout the day, and so like I don't know, it was just too dark in some scenes, and it was like couldn't turn the light out. But
yeah, it wasn't like super pro from like a lighting or sound perspective, and that hurt it a little bit. But I do think using so much like found footage presentation during the movie when you're working with like a lower budget is a way of making it creepier when it's like you can also get a pass. You know what I mean? Like, because I thought all those found footage, like when they were watching the film, that was some of the best parts of the movie. And one thing I thought was really interesting on that too was the way the sound they would play in the background. Because with the projector, like none of that was sound coming from the film, but it was very deliberate what was playing in like the movie while that was on the wall. Like it was just a really interesting way that sort of progressed, and at different times the way they used sound behind it was the thing that really stood out to me with this one. As in they made the moments where they're showing you the film really hit every time, and I thought that was cool.
I wonder if like the budget for sound or for music like is decreasing over the years or something, as in it's getting cheaper to do some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, as long as you have like a good understanding and concept of like of scoring a film, like you can get with the electronic music out there, like you can get any sound and like create any sound. So I wonder if it's getting cheaper, so we're only going to have like better soundtracks, like from here on out.
Well, yeah, and I guess it's probably a lot easier now to make like exactly what you want, as opposed to having to go find something somebody already made that sounds kind of like what you want. So, yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and I thought one thing that was kind of interesting to me about this one too was with Ethan Hawke's character, sort of like the morality of it. So he's a true crime writer apparently in the past he has helped solve some crimes, but in other cases he's introduced uncertainty, and like the police are pretty sure that he's helped guilty people either like get a lighter sentence or get away with it. And then there's the whole like balance of he's finding these films and he thinks he should tell the police, but then he's kind of like, maybe I won't, maybe I want to add this to my book. Like the whole profiting off of other people's tragedy, I thought was just kind of an interesting element. And the fact that the movie was addressing it in 2012, which I guess was probably closer to the start of like the true crime obsession, you know, but I feel like now, like every other TV channel is some kind of like true crime thing. You know, Netflix is constantly putting out documentaries about people that got murdered. And I've wondered a few times, like the impact that has on the families of those people for like their most painful memory to all of a sudden just be ripped wide open in public. And kind of how does the legality of that work? You know, like, is anyone able to say like, hey, I really don't want a documentary about, you know, my daughter getting killed? That seems like a bad idea. Or is it just like, once it's in the public domain, you can do it? So anyway, all those things I felt like were kind of an undertone to the movie, because I never really felt clear on whether or not I was supposed to want Ethan Hawke to survive.
Yeah. Yeah, my thought was like, it was probably like 2012 was probably like the like when podcasts and like you were kind of saying Netflix, but I feel like the interest in true crime has been like a thing since like Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh sure, yeah, true.
And so like I mean, my thought was like, you kind of in a way feel bad for Ethan Hawke's character, because it's like, well, that cop that thinks that the person's guilty, like he doesn't know for sure. Like, I don't know, it just doesn't, just because he let someone go that people thought was guilty doesn't mean it's 100% guilty. I don't know, but maybe that's how you could like him. Yeah, or because you do have like that that kind of battle throughout the film. I don't know, I was kind of going for him, but it was more so just because of his kids, I think, you know, over anything. Yeah. But then also, like, I got to thinking while watching this that I can't figure out if Ethan Hawke is a poor man's Kevin Bacon or a rich man's Kevin Bacon. Like, that's all I was trying to figure out for probably about 15, 20 minutes of this film.
Yeah.
A little hazy.
Yeah. I was going to say he's like a younger man's Kevin Bacon, but really Kevin Bacon hasn't aged in 30 years, so I guess it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Here's something, though, about the film that, so you can kind of see, and as we're kind of talking about it, I feel like you start to realize, like, this is obviously influenced by past horror films, so, you know, you have Ring, obviously, you have some other, I don't know, maybe Conjuring, you feel like, but there's a couple scenes, like with the throat cutting scene, where like it reflects in like his glasses. Like that reminded me of, like, since we just did that 100 Years Horror, it kind of reminded me of like using the shadows as using shadows to show something scary. So like that's obviously influenced by older horror films there. But it was just like it was just kind of cool to see it kind of all start to be pieced together. Of like, okay, like, this can almost be like a homage to you know, to maybe the writer's favorite films. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this one is very, very deep seated in the horror genre, and I think that's kind of what you end up getting with Blumhouse a lot. Is even though they try to do a lot of like kind of creative stories or modern takes on kind of plot and stuff, you see a ton of influence from the previous 100 years of horror movie making, which makes it cool for people like us, you know? And that was one fun thing, you know, like you were saying about doing the 100 Years of Horror last season, was really just watching that progression over time and kind of getting like a solid handle on kind of how some of those tropes or not maybe maybe tools of the trade were developed along the way. So, yeah.
I mean, because like even when he's watching like the footage of some of the murder, so like the throat cutting murder, and then like the one where they run him over with a lawnmower, like that just reminded me of like 80s kind of horror scenes, and like the over the top stuff they would do, and it was just like a combo of something like the kind of newer spin of horror films, which is like where there are more indie companies putting out these horror films, so it's maybe a little bit smaller budget, but like paying homage to like the some of the classics of like maybe Sleepaway Camp or something like that. And I mean, I think you can maybe overdo it.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely felt like a solid package of a lot of good ideas to me. So it did fall into that pattern that we've talked about a lot, where it's like at night when it's dark and scary, a bunch of horror stuff happens and you have these like extended scary scenes, and then it's daytime, and then we go back to developing the story and the characters and moving the plot forward and all of that, and then it's nighttime again and we have more scary stuff happen. Like, that is a thing that you see over and over and over in horror movies, and that was definitely the pattern that this one took. But I think one thing that sort of makes this one stand out a little bit is how long some of those nighttime scenes went on, and just how they would escalate.
Yeah.
One that I really liked was where he's like in the office with the bat walking around, and there's like that demon girl that appears right behind him, and then the demon boy behind him, and like they're kind of just all around him, but he doesn't see them for whatever reason. And then the projector turns itself back on, and then you see like the demon girl is in the bedroom with the daughter, and it's just like, holy crap, what am I even supposed to be paying attention to? Like, there's so much going on right now, and it's all just like tense and dark and scary. And I thought a lot of the horror scenes really delivered in this one.
Yeah, I think the only thing that kind of, when it came to the horror part, was like the main bad guy, Mr. Boogie, or I don't even know if I want to try to pronounce his name, but like the main bad guy, it just seemed like it just seemed a little cheap in a way. I felt like it was, I don't know.
Do you mean like the concept,
the makeup,
or like the costuming?
The costuming. Sorry.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, just like the costuming. That's it. I just was like, oh, it's kind of weak. You could maybe drum up something more than like a white face and black eye kind of thing, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah,
the first time you see him though, when it's like the video of the people being pulled backwards into the pool, and then you just kind of see his face like reflected in the water. I thought that was a cool way to like introduce him.
Oh yeah,
but I agree. In general, he didn't. You could have gotten a little more exciting.
Well, I think it worked in those because it was more grainy. Like, it was harder.
Oh yeah,
it's kind of harder to see. And so like once he's clear, it's just like, oh, yeah, you're not that bad. Yeah. This definitely like hit for me. This hit like it's kind of like with Insidious. Once you see like the red demon guy, it's like, that's not nearly as bad. Like, I don't find him nearly as scary. It's an imagination thing. It is cool. Like, I do like the found, like how it was kind of like a found footage combo, like with the normal film. Like, that's definitely a smart way to do that.
Yeah, and it was definitely pulled off well, the found footage parts, because they felt just so creepy, because it was just like the observing the families for a while first, and then all of a sudden just something terrible would be happening to them. And like I said, the way that they would present those, like when he was watching them and the sound that was happening in the background and stuff, was all, I thought, just really well done. But the only other question I had for you on this one, did you feel like the ending was predictable?
No. Well, once you start watching, like once you start seeing what's going down, no, I don't think so. Not for me. I didn't think so. I actually really enjoyed watching this one. Judging by my lack of notes. But I didn't think so.
I kind of thought they tipped their hand really early on the whole, every person that died lived in the house of the previous family that died, and then they died too. And it's like, well, he lives in the family now. And it's the kids doing it. Like, okay, yeah,
Yeah. Maybe, but here's the thing though. Like, I feel like we just watched another film that was like really, really predictable, and that we'll be doing podcasts on next week. And so I think maybe like that kind of spoiled it.
Sure.
Kind of. Yeah, it kind of changed it. But that does bring up the only question I have for you with this film is if you were to find out while living in the house that, this was going on and you bailed and you thought, okay, I can move back and just be haunted by a demon this whole time, or I can leave and be killed, which one would you pick?
Put the kids up for adoption and move.
Okay. Oh, that's a good call. That's funny.
Somebody else's problem now.
Yeah, that's a good call. What if you just paid someone to come be their parent in that house so you could just leave?
It's like free house asterisk. Comes with kids and demons. That's not the weirdest thing that's been put on Craigslist today.
You didn't read the fine print, Mr. Smith.
I'd make a great dad.
Yeah. That would turn into like some old person's Facebook post nowadays, and like the asterisk demon would be like their dog or something. The kids would be like, mom trying to get rid of kids and demon dog. Yeah. Overall, did you like the film though?
I did, and I think I would actually. So I've kind of been keeping, and this is just purely out of spite because that's the type of person I am. But you know how we did Esquire's list of the like scariest horror movies of all time?
Yeah.
I've been working on my own list that I will present to the world at some point.
Yeah.
Of top 50, and I think this one may go on it.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah. I like it. I mean, even from like the cover of the film, like I just like the idea of, the person walking with blood dripping down into the image of that, monster. Yeah.
And it definitely left a lot of questions unanswered, which in a situation like this, I would prefer over trying to be too, like, explanatory of the details, because I feel like that can either make it lose momentum or they just end up saying something stupid, and then you can talk yourself out of it being compelling. Whereas when it's all just kind of open and you're like, what the hell just happened? Then that's more effective from a I guess, like longer lasting horror experience.
Yeah. So, that's a good call.
Anyway. Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad we watched this one. I think that was a good ad, and I feel like I am less of a fraud having a podcast about horror movies and never having seen Sinister. So, plus.
Yep. It was a win-win. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
To our face. I was still doing my advertisement, man.
I stepped all over it. We're good at this.
Son of a bitch.
www.realgood.com.
And that's it for today's episode. If you've listened this far, then thank you, and we hope you've enjoyed it. We're always looking for new ideas, so if you have any questions, comments, or movie suggestions, please send us an email at thehorrificpod@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on or message our Facebook page. Just search for The Horrific Podcast. Thanks for listening.